Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of Lowdown on Low Code. Lowdown on Low Code, our podcast is brought to you by Analysis.tech, an analyst firm completely devoted to low code. I am John Rymer, former Forrester analyst. And if you don't like the term low code, you can blame me and my one-time partner at Forrester, Clay Richardson. We coined the term back in 2014, and it's been fairly successful. Joined today by my friend and colleague and collaborator on low code for many years, Rob Koplowitz. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing good, John. I'm doing good. So short introduction, I worked with John for many years in the low code space. My area was really more process focused. So I coined the term digital process automation as a follow on to what we used to call BPM. In order to acknowledge the importance of low code in the space. So great to be here, John, and thanks everybody for joining, and thanks Markus for joining.
Markus, thanks so much for joining. We've been wanting to do this. Rob and I have been talking about the so-called DACH region, which is the German-speaking world in Europe, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, the part of Switzerland that speaks German. Way back when, we began to notice that companies employing low code in the DACH region had a real expertise and a real passion for both low code and, in Rob's world, the digital process automation. And it was really notable. And so we're thrilled, Markus, to have you on to help us explore this topic. And we hope it's going to be the first of many conversations. So, guys, Markus is a friend, so I didn't properly introduce him. Markus Bernhardt is with Illumini, long-time executive in the DACH region, has worked in low code for years. And actually, Markus, I was going to ask you maybe to introduce yourself a little more properly, the way you in your current position, and tell us a little bit about how you came to low code, and the various things you do, including the very active low code association in Germany.
Yeah, well, thank you, John. Thank you, Rob. Thanks for having me here on the podcast. I'm thrilled to be here. As you said, my name is Markus, and currently I work as a sales director for Illumina Informatik AG. Illumina is based, it's a systems integrator based in Mainz, which is close to Frankfurt in Germany, very close to the airport, actually. And you can see the River Rhine on the backside here. This is the terrace from our office. So everyone who wants to come by, please feel free. It's wonderful. What we're doing is basically we're a systems integrator. We work with various platforms on the low-code side, such as Camunda, who was also featured on your podcast, by the way. We've been a long-time Camunda Platinum partner. We're also the chapter lead of the Camunda community for the whole Rhine-Main area, which is basically the area surrounding Frankfurt. Mm-hmm. We organize a lot of community meetups and so on. We are also working with Salesforce and various other technologies. We're a traditional software developer as well, 150 people. But my main concern here as a sales director is what we call the smart automation department, which encompasses the process orchestration side, such as Camunda or IBM WFPS, the formerly known as Business Automation Workflow, BAW. And then, of course, the task automation side, RPA, we work with UiPath or Blue Prism or Automation Anywhere. And then, of course, low code. And we're a big partner of HCL software on that side. We do work with Microsoft on the Power Platform. We work with Retool and many other platforms. So we're deeply entrenched. Now, because, a real job is not something that really fills out your time, in my old days, I got into the honorary work stuff. And so I am very active in our IT community here, which we call IT Club, which is an association of 75 companies around the Mainz area. And from that IT club, I am also a member of the presiding community on the Federal Association of IT Medium-Sized Enterprises. It's called BITME. Yeah, it's basically an association with over 2,000 member companies, IT companies, and focuses on their needs. And then I'm also a founding member and the vice chairman of the Low Code Association. And how this all started was that I got into the low code game many years ago when I worked for Nekara, which is a small German no code platform. Everyone should check it out. It's small but gold. And the point is that I've seen that in the enterprise, you can change and alter how software is developed. You can make it more customized in less time and save a lot of money. So I was fixed. And we had the first low-code day in Berlin back in 2019. This is actually where we met, John, the first time, because you were, of course, the keynote speaker. And this was I would say it was an ignition for the whole, at least the German region, where we as software companies and also the systems integrators met and discussed on how can we advance the low-code agenda. And low-code at that time was pretty much seen only for small and medium-sized corporations, for the solopreneur to help out when they have some needs that they're not able to hire a software developer because it's too pricey. And so it never got the recognition it should in the enterprise market. And so we set out, our chairman, Carsten Noack, who's the CEO and founder of a German low-code platform called Scopeland, and several others, including Simplifier and Gomo, many different others. We met, and due to Corona, everything was at a standstill. But finally, in 2022, we met up in Berlin and we founded the Low Code Association as a non-profit organization to advance low code in the enterprise market, but also in universities, for example. So how do we have to alter our studies and lectures? How can we reach universities, colleges, but also a very traditional German thing called apprenticeships, where you have a strict plan on how to become, to get a title. So we work with the chambers of commerce on advancing this. We work with Fraunhofer Focus, which is a state-based institute that researches on the back end to see what are the actual outcomes and results that you can achieve with low code. And this was founded, and we had our first low code day last year as the flagship conference. We did several smaller days concentrating on topics such as how can you use it in your private enterprise, how can you use it in the public services side, so how can the government, the state government, really focus on delivering much better solutions on their side. And so, we focused on many different topics. And one thing that when we started out, we got a little cheeky, and we got a little, how can I say, we wanted to make a little splash. So we did something that we call the Low Code Manifesto. Of course, it was a reminiscence to the Agile Manifesto. And so we put out several points that we feel that people should think about when doing software development in the enterprise, on the enterprise side, or even on the public services market. And this gave us some recognition, even in the Germany's largest IT magazine. We are more vibrant than ever. We're now close to 30 member companies. Yep. We have several different work streams that we're doing. As I said, we work with universities, we work with the public services side, and we're doing very successful conference called the Low Code Day. This year, again, in conjunction with the federal state of Lower Saxony, because Lower Saxony has been very active in promoting low-code technology, not only for their services, for their own public services side, but also for the enterprises that are located in that state.
Right. And
I think it was fantastic.
I attended that. I spoke at that conference, and I'll attest that it was a very active couple of days. Lots and lots of really good conversations, including with an important minister from the government of Lower Saxony. It was a great experience.
Thank you.
Very
Yeah.
I was very impressed.
And we quickly decided to make you, dear John, in honor of your pioneering work that you did, in honor to where you basically gave us one term to follow. We decided to make you and grant you the title of an honorary member in our association, the first honorary member in the association. And also, we would like to recognize that this year it's been 10 years. It feels like much longer time, but it's been 10 years that you coined the term. And we're really happy that you did this pioneering work. So thank you very much for the work, and thank you very much for accepting the title as an honorary member.
I'm grateful, and I will gladly share the honor with Clay Richardson in absentia here, and my friend Rob, because we really, in 10 years, we've done an awful lot of work on this. Wow, 10 years. Anyway, let's keep moving. Rob, over to you.
So, Marcus, I mentioned I started off in Lotus Notes, which was like, I guess 40 years ago. I started as a note developer. But 10 years ago at Forrester, I began to cover this area of process automation in earnest, and started working very closely with the vendors on that side. And one of the things that I quickly discovered was, number one, there was going to be a lot of trips to Germany, which was fabulous. It was a fabulous perk associated with this coverage area. But also, to this day, I remain fascinated with the pickup of low code, the emphasis on process automation in the DACH region, the number of vendors that are thriving there, serving that region. Do you have any insights as to why that might be the case? What's going on there that's driving this level of interest in automation and process?
It's very interesting to see the history of all of this, and there's no real proper research, I guess, but what we can do is we can speculate why it's a different market than in the States. The point is that I think we, in Germany especially, we quickly adopted BPMN or DPA, as when you coined the term DPA, digital process automation. We quickly adopted this. And by the way, you know what the B in Berlin stands for? It stands for BPM. Yeah, that's what they say in Berlin, at least. Because you can see that there's a thriving community. So when, for example, Camunda, located in Berlin, was founded, or you have Celonis on the process side as well. It's not really low code, one could argue, but it's certainly something that it all connects together. Yeah, and so Celonis is located in Berlin. You have Signavio, who's now owned by SAP, who's also in Berlin, another process orchestration and process automation software vendor. You had this deep process thing going on already in Germany. And then you had pioneers such as Scopland that I mentioned earlier, where Carsten has been doing work even in the 90s. Yeah? And you had a thriving community of Domino and Notes users and developers. And as I could see this year, I was at the German user group meeting. I was fortunate to have a speech there. And I could see that the community is still thriving and people are very happy with Domino and Notes. And we should not underestimate this. I mean, even I did some Domino and Notes work during my work student time at Deutsche Telekom, and I'm not a developer. Yeah, but it was easy to do some little stuff, and people got hooked. And it's very interesting to see that. So the point is, you always had this interest, I believe, because in Germany, we believe in processes. We want to be somewhat strict and we want to be organized. And I guess it's our nature. Yeah. Maybe sometimes I think I'm not really German, to be honest, but I'm in sales. So, that's strange. But
so there's a cultural, sounds like there's a cultural angle to it, Markus.
Exactly. I think so. I think there's a cultural angle to it. The idea was, I believe, never to have some platform to quickly do some app. And, I think you called it cowboy coders once,
Mm-hmm.
John. It was never the idea to shoot from the hip and have something ready. But the Germans have always been more about analyzing, taking a look at it. Sometimes this takes too long, yeah. But in the end, you will get a structured result out of it. And I think this is why all of the process orchestration, the process mining work and that stuff has always been very, very popular here in Germany. Now,
So,
coming to
sorry,
task.
sorry.
I'm sorry, Rob.
Go ahead, Marcus. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Now, taking a look at this, we of course also had the RPA vendors out there. Task automation is a necessity in a work environment where you have really high wages, and not only the wages are high, we have a short supply of workers at the moment, of skilled workers, and the government taxes work a lot. And this means that you need to automate a lot of stuff, a lot of process. Now, the point is, what we can see is there have been many, many ideas, and those ideas sometimes came only from niches. Yeah, they came out of some niche that one hadn't thought of before. So, for example, in our association, we have members that are specialized on geodata, that do work with UML. Always, have you ever heard about a local platform that is based on UML? Yeah. So we have people that do things with the graph database, where you have edge cases where you can do things. It's not for the general public, but we have the standard platforms and the use of the standard platforms. Plus, we have those edge cases, those very highly specialized platforms. And I think this is something, especially when it comes to, for example, the generation of APIs, of application programming interfaces, and the connectivity to those APIs. That's something that is very well done in the DACH region. To top this off, it's something to differentiate yourself from the big competition that comes out of the US. So if you're trying to establish just another Mendix or OutSystems, that wouldn't work. I think the niche is a necessity to have a good platform and to find systems integrators willing to take this on as a partner. Yeah.
Right.
And secondly, it's the lack of venture capital compared to the US. I think also, I think it was 30 actually, but the lack of venture capital, it requires a different way to build up your companies. I mean, there's venture capital out there, no doubt about that. But it's a different mentality, and there's less venture capital out there. You can see that. And now, two things to consider. First thing is Mendix. Second thing is OutSystems. They're actually both European companies. Yeah? Mendix from the Netherlands, OutSystems from Portugal, who needed to go to the US to secure more capital or to be bought by Siemens. Yeah, and actually German company that owns Mendix now. Yeah. And you can see that they had to go that way. They had to go to the US to become really big. And the same is on the RPA side. UiPath, for example, is a Romanian company, but they're always considered a US company, right? But you have, if you want to reach this level, it's a different story. That's for most, that's out of reach. But it's the specialization that is key in the DACH region, I believe.
Right. Speaking of German companies that came over to the U.S. and hit it big many years ago, is SAP. There's SAP, one of the largest and most influential software companies in the world. Started in Germany, grew in Germany, still based in Germany, massive facilities there. SAP has always interested us as a part of this landscape, Markus, because they really were slow, in our judgment, to embrace low code, and it was all about, they had their own programming language, ABAP, and then there was a lot of emphasis on professional coding and conventional coding. They've more recently embraced low code. I'm curious. They have such a strong influence in the German market, in the DACH region. How do you see them? How do you see their influence now in either promoting or holding back the low-code agenda, as you say?
Yeah. SAP is a classic example I believe, of how maybe German companies only or DACH companies only think. SAP always has been a little late to the game. I remember the 90s when there was still Larry Ellison at the helm of Oracle and Hasso Plattner who fought it out, who was the CEO of SAP. And it was always considered that Oracle would be on the forefront, but SAP had the better solutions because they thought about it a little bit more and just didn't put it out there. Mm-hmm. So I think this is something that's happening today as well to some extent. SAP recognized some years ago that they had to do something, and they bought up companies. They bought companies such as AppGyver from the Nordics. Mm-hmm. And they had them on, and I think they forged a partnership with Mendix. They had people forge partnerships with smaller companies such as Simplifier, who used to be an SAP consultant agency, and then they created their own platform. So this is something where SAP, it lacked, it knew it had to do something, and then it bought some bits and pieces. And at first, it was very loosely connected. So people didn't know how this all made sense and what to make of it. In the end, what has been going on in the past, I would say 3 to 4 years maybe, is that SAP has taken on this market and it has taken it very, very seriously. And it all starts out with their idea that there is nowadays, if you have SAP S/4HANA, there should be a clean core. I think that's key to them. Their mantra is keep the core clean, because this allows that you have best practices built in. They might even be industry-specific best practices built in, but you don't have your own little bits and pieces put in. This allows for a quick innovation. This allows for, let's say, update cycles, much easier updates, and so on. So keep the core clean. That is something. It's very standardized. Now, of course, this will not cut it, because if you even take a look at a medium-sized company in Germany, they have all of their own little nitty-gritty things that they need to see in a development, in a software platform. So they have built all of this. What they have is basically built on something they call the SAP Business Technology Platform, the SAP BTP. That's it. So the BTP, this has some components and solutions and services that you can use. That is basically, it's encompassing all of the SAP solutions. And they have forged different services that they all label with SAP Build. And that is their local platform. So this consists of SAP Build apps, which is, as the name says, you can do smartphone apps, or you can do user interfaces with it, very easy solutions. You have the SAP Build process automation, so for easy automations. And this is not to be mistaken with Signavio, the former Signavio, where you have the underlying process orchestration. The SAP Build process automation is very small automations that you can build on top. So you can do little RPA bots with it and so on. Yeah, and then you have SAP Build Workzone and SAP Build Code. So they have been investing strongly. I think they have their story ready by now. They have thought about where to incorporate low code, and their idea is to have low code as the app builder or easy workflow builder, easy intranet site builder, and they have their ERP and CRM systems clean. Yeah, and they are not only targeting the so-called citizen developer or business developer, but their latest mantra is fusion development, which means that you have for example, with SAP Build Code, so you have the pro coder and the business developer, the specialist, the subject matter expert, who's a bit IT savvy. You have them aligned and they can work together. This is something they want to achieve, and not only on the SAP platform, which already would give you a lot of users, but also outside. So if you have cloud connectors to different systems, they are standardized connectors. So if you have a Workday or some other system that you use, even a Salesforce, I guess, then you can build low-code apps with SAP, with the SAP Build platform, and can access data on those platforms. So they are trying to build a solution And yet again, it's another company that has a very specific angle to the same business problem. It's the SAP angle, and they say
Right.
this is our way to advance into low code with enhancing their ERP system actually at the same time.
In
And I
the
think it's a
core.
clever strategy, to be honest.
Do you find that because SAP has embraced low code, that more enterprises in the DACH region feel like they have permission to
Yeah,
adopt low code?
I think there's this is a major driver. If you are, let me put it this way: SAP is the largest software company in Europe, and by one of the largest companies in Germany. If SAP puts out a press release, everyone will write about it. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's a different story than if you're let's say a smaller software vendor that just builds up a platform, and even if you have secured 5 million euros as venture capital, SAP will have the headlines.
Yeah.
And SAP is, I believe, also the company that tries to put cloud computing on the map. As you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
especially in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, we have data protection laws that are very rigid. So a lot of US vendors don't really care about that. A lot
Hmm.
of US platforms say, well, we're a SaaS business, we're cloud based, so get along with it. Maybe
Hmm.
they offer Amazon storage in the European region, but for most businesses, this is really critical, and you need to know where your data is stored.
Hmm.
It's a critical legal component that can cost you a lot of money in the European Union, and
Hmm.
this is something that SAP is pushing by saying by 2030 you should be in the cloud, because this is the point when only S4 HANA is the name of the game. And so the big corporations now work with SAP on that, and they get more open towards cloud solutions.
Hmm.
I believe actually SAP is a door opener for many of our member companies in the association, for
Hmm.
many software developers in Europe, because they open doors that were shut at the moment. If SAP
Hmm.
invests heavily, if this is one of their strategic goals, fusion development, if this is a goal, then it means it's not only a trendy thing, it's something sustainable. That's
Right.
a thing. And so in the end, everyone in the DACH region, Daimler, for example, or Deutsche Telekom, whoever, the major players, they all want to leverage pro code and low code technology augmented by AI.
Hmm.
And they need to do this on a low code basis. I think the goal is clear. The ways are defined differently. Yeah, but SAP
Right.
opens doors even for the smaller ones.
Right. Thank you. We'll get to AI in a minute. Rob, over to you.
So, Marcus, let's switch gears a little bit here. We've been talking about SAP on the vendor side, but I want to talk about the user side. And one of the things, those of us who are interested in low code and interested in process automation, you're very quickly going to get to case studies around BMW, around Deutsche Bank, around Mercedes Benz, Lufthansa. These are amazing automation stories that are kind of front and center. But the nature of the economy in the DACH region, there's a lot of smaller firms, there's a lot of mid-sized firms, and there's a lot of services firms, and of course there's the public sector. So beyond sort of that upper stratosphere of where automation is taking root and low code's taking root, what's happening down in the public sector and in these smaller and mid-sized firms?
Mhm. So, from the smaller and mid-sized firms, I think you really have to take a look at the individual situation that the company is in. Some of the smaller companies know they need to invest, at least the CIO knows it. But if you only have a handful of developers and you have mainly personnel that installs Microsoft 365 or something like this, it's a tough play to get into it. I think when we talk to corporations on the local day or in our events that we do, we are seeing that there is a lot of interest out there, but for the smaller mid-sized companies, they don't know how to start. They don't have the budget to just play around with it for a year. So if they invest something, they need an immediate, not a cashback, but they need immediate results, because the vendors are sometimes selling it wrong. They're selling it just by saying, oh, this is very quick. It's very quick. And in the end, if you invest some money in our platform, it's very quick, it's easy, it's painless, it's citizen development. And in the end, if you look at it, it's not the case. I think that's why the concept of a business developer came up, Forrester, I believe, to say you need specific personnel in a corporate environment. And so it's money at the moment. It's sometimes other problems that they have, and it prevents them from investing in that on that side. Also, we can see that a lot of companies are playing around with Microsoft Power Platform because Microsoft just does a great job of selling this. They're saying the basic platform is already included in the price, so people stop playing around with it. And once they've started playing around, they will then come to some limitation that, of course, can be uplifted. You can uplift it by buying premium. And so Microsoft does a really good job of getting there, very easily, and making it more prominent. But at one point, you have to pay for it.
Right.
Yeah, but this is something that's very interesting. So yes, it's on the agenda. We need more education out there. We need more of the cowboy coders. Maybe we need more experimentation around it. But I've not seen any corporation that has not profited. So, or to say it positive, every corporation that I've worked with and that I've seen and that I've talked to has always profited from a low-code approach, even if at first the results took longer than expected.
Right.
I think this is where the software developers, the platform providers, set the expectation level wrong. They always focus on very, very short development cycles and very short times of really good feedback, and it's easy and it's agile. If they would market it a little bit more honest, I think it would be much better. But on the public services side, what we can see is we see a lot of movement. For example, in Germany, we had 2 large bids, contracts given out. One provided, I believe, one for Pega, one for OutSystems. So all the OutSystems partners were really happy about that because it gives them a lot of chances to compete for service contracts with the government for OutSystems solutions. And we can see that the whole bidding process is unfortunately very tedious in the EU. It's broken in my opinion, but it's the way it is, right? We're trying from the BitMe side, from the association side, we're trying to talk to politicians to think about how to make it better. But in the end, sometimes in the bid, they already give you the way on how you should develop the software. They don't say we need this and that system, which makes it, neutral, vendor neutral in the end. They sometimes give you the way on how to do things, and this is tough. But it's gotten a foothold, and you can see that people that we've been talking to, especially in the state of Lower Saxony, have been very successful in implementing. We had, John, I think you were at that little speech there. We had 3 or 4 demonstrations from the public services side on what they did and how they implemented. And there's been a lot going on, especially sometimes with specialized platforms, such as from our member MGM Technology, called A12. This was rebranded from the city of Hamburg, or actually the federal state of Hamburg, because Hamburg is a city and a federal state. Don't ask me why. But the point is that they even have their own rebranding called Module F that is specifically geared towards public services side. So there's a lot of movement there.
And my conversations with the folks who came to the conference from Lower Saxony, they were very keenly aware of the human factors, which was a good sign. Because to your point, low code's a journey, and it includes products, but there's a lot of organizational change management and skills and new skills and roles and responsibilities that you have to master, that you have to tackle in order to really scale up and have success. Thank you for that. Just real briefly, we are listening. You are listening to and watching Lowdown on Low Code. It's a podcast from Analysis.tech. Analysis.tech being a firm an analyst firm devoted solely to low code. If you want to engage with us, we do provide advisory services. Um, you want to engage with myself or Rob Koplowitz or Ryan Duguid or Dave Marcus or Francis Carden or Andrew Bartels, our chief economist, just hit us up at analysis.tech. Um, uh, one other point I wanted to drill on, Marcus, that you raised was citizen development. It's citizen development is a thing in low code. It's a real trend in low code. It's been very interesting to us that the United States has a pickup on we do see pickup on the citizen development idea, certainly, but we've had two guests who have led citizen development programs on our podcast, and both are European. And so I wonder if both hail from the UK. So I wonder if you could just give us a quick update on how is that idea playing in Germany? Do you see a real uptake on it, or is it a little bit lagging behind?
We're lagging behind the US, as always. We have to say it's yeah. As I said, we're more concerned about things, I guess, it's like the AI Act of the EU, where we regulate technology before it's actually there. Yeah, it's the EU thing, it's the German thing, I guess. What we can see is, I believe, something where we are really making a lot of progress from the university side, for example, with studies and researches and so on, is what is a good governance? Because what nobody wants is this shadow IT. You don't get rid of Excel and Access-based software modules by just replacing it with something that was shot from the hip, by some guy that has since left the company or is ill at the moment, and nobody can really make sense out of all the stuff that is outputted there. The thing really is that you need a good governance. You need ideas on how to educate, on how to enable. And many companies are really doing a fantastic job about thinking on how to do that.
So maybe that leads then to greater adoption.
Yes,
Rob, let's turn.
Longer, but it leads to greater adoption. That's what I said. It takes longer, but it leads to greater adoption. And another thing is that we've seen a lot of combinations of different low-code technologies. So we have usually a low-code platform, a traditional application platform, together with a process orchestrator, for example, and an RPA doing all of the work connected. And it's been a great journey there, also for citizen developers.
Thank you, Rob. Why don't we wrap up with AI?
So, I mean, it's a little bit of a continuation of the same theme here, Marcus. It feels like what we're seeing is that there's a little bit more cautious approach to AI in Europe, maybe the DACH region in particular. Thank you for that, by the way. But could you give us a sense of where do you think AI is going generally, and where do you see maybe from a more optimistic standpoint, where do you see the hot spots emerging in AI that will really be relevant to process automation and low code?
Yeah, I think everyone is working on that. I thought it would be the first podcast in the last 2 years that goes by without mentioning AI. It's been incredible. What we can see is that there's a heck of a lot of interest, no doubt about that. So, for example, if we go back to SAP, you can see that with SAP Build Code, they have something, their AI assistant is called Joule, and from a prompt, it actually generated an SAP application, and they showed that. It's not. I don't think it's live yet, but it generated an SAP application that looked like an SAP application with the UI5 user interface. Then you can see that Camunda, for example, is doing a lot of work on bits and pieces on their software there. So it's not about, the idea there is not about prompting to make a BPM diagram and visually modeling it. The idea is, for example, on the task list side, on the user, on the human task list. So where users get to do some work in the whole process. If you need a form, for example, AI can take all of the fields that you defined in prior steps and composes a form out of the blue. So you have something to work on. Yeah. So you're not starting from scratch. And I think this is the way forward at the moment. It's about supporting to a certain amount in the generation process. So, for example, I know that HCL software in their Iris client and the Volta X product, they want to do something there, and I've seen some really good results. So it really supports at first. And by the way, OutSystems, I believe, announced something last week or 2 weeks ago.
Just last week.
Yeah, and this is the way forward at the moment. I think the real low-hanging fruit here is it's okay to explore this, yeah. But the real low-hanging fruit here is for me is how can you leverage AI services by interfacing to them so they can analyze your data and put them in a dashboard automatically. So it's not about the actual coding or no coding and low coding. It's more about how can you leverage AI to make your life easier, to analyze data, to make sense out of data, to present data. I think this is the real low-hanging fruit, where also a lot of people are working on at the moment. What we see at the moment is that, for example, OpenAI's API is used a lot. So they're not building their own technology in the backend, but they leverage oftentimes US technology again, yeah, such as OpenAI or Claude or even Mistral from France. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Markus. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank everybody for joining. Markus, that was great. I think one of the things that we'd like to close out on here is there are some really important differentiations around areas like the region. We spent a lot of time discussing the DACH region today and the peculiar requirements of the DACH region. There are, of course, vertical requirements. There are, of course, specialties around technology. It's a really broad array of technology solutions that are available to you out there. One of the things we really want to focus on, one of the reasons we're so delighted to have Markus on the show today is we believe that there are a lot of different solutions, and your solution may not be one of the top 15 that's shown in somebody's leader quadrant or somebody's grid. And it's a much more nuanced and sophisticated conversation to figure out. So with that, we wanted to highlight the DACH region, but we also want to highlight our evaluative research, which is going to be coming out shortly. It will originally be focused on AI. Sorry, but AI is the area of immediate differentiation. And we will focus on that as part of our evaluative research, which will include many more vendors and much more nuanced evaluation. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Markus, thank you so much.
Thank you, Markus.
Really enlightening.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Alrighty. Take care.
And for everyone, not only in the DACH region, please check out the Low Code Association, of course, and our events. We have and become a member if you want, if you're a company. Even as a systems integrator, if you're a software developer, please become a member. We have members from the Netherlands, from Germany, Austria, and Portugal, for example. So we are not only we're focusing very much on the German-speaking side, but we try to broaden the approach. And thank you very much for having me. It was a lot of fun, and I hope we can do an update one of these days. I think it's a thriving community here over in the DACH region, and we're happy to showcase this.
Count on it. Thank you, Markus.